Northern California, late 1960s. The fog here was different from London, thinner, saltier. It rolled in from the Pacific and settled over the dark roads and lovers' lanes like a living thing that had learned to wait. He had left Whitechapel behind decades earlier. The blade had served him perfectly in 1888, but humans were starting to look too closely at old patterns. The newspapers had turned the knife into a legend. They would never stop hunting a name that did not exist. So he simply walked into the fog one final night and disappeared. Now he was somewhere new. The world had changed. Cars, highways, young couples driving out to quiet places after dark to be alone. Guns were louder and faster than knives, but they created excellent cover. A gunshot wound could hide almost anything if you placed it correctly. He adapted. He began hunting the isolated roads outside Vallejo and the dark pull-offs near the lakes. He would approach a parked car with a flashlight and a calm, official-sounding voice, pretending to be a police officer or a lost driver. Once the window came down and their guard dropped, the first shot was already on its way. While the victims were still dying, he leaned in and fed. Two small punctures, always placed with the same centuries-old care, behind the ear, under the jaw, or at the base of the neck, where the larger damage from the bullets or the knife would later conceal them completely. Then he staged the rest of the scene the way he wanted the police to find it. Spent casings left in careful positions, bodies arranged just so, sometimes a message written on the car door. He enjoyed this new game even more than the old one. The letters became his favorite part. He started sending them to the newspapers and the police. Cryptic symbols, ciphers, taunting messages that claimed he was killing for fun, that he would become a slave in the afterlife, that he was watching them. He signed them with a simple circle and cross. The press named him the Zodiac. He watched with cold amusement as the city panicked. Task forces were formed, suspects were questioned, theories multiplied. Just like in Whitechapel, they searched desperately for a man, a name, a face. They never looked for what he really was. At Lake Berryessa, he wore the black hooded costume with the white circle cross symbol painted on the chest. He walked up to the young couple on the blanket in broad daylight, spoke politely, then stabbed them both with the same careful precision he had once used with a surgical blade in London. While they bled into the dirt, he fed. The knife wounds covered the punctures perfectly. Before he left, he drew the symbol on the car door and walked back into the trees without hurry. The police would later call it one of the most deliberate crime scenes they had ever seen. He continued for a while longer. A few more killings, a few more letters. Each time the bite marks stayed hidden beneath the official cause of death. Each time the investigators chased shadows and codes and handwriting samples that led nowhere. Then, just as he had done in London, he grew bored. The game had given him what he needed. The fear was thick, the blood was rich, the legend was already forming in every newspaper and every locked car door. One night he simply stopped. No final letter, no last body left in a dramatic pose. He cleaned his weapons, wiped every surface of the last car he had used, and walked into the California darkness. By the next year, the killings had stopped completely. Decades later, people still argued over who the Zodiac had been. They wrote books, they made documentaries, they created elaborate lists of suspects. True crime podcasts still dedicate entire episodes and weekends to the ciphers and the letters, hosts leaning into microphones and wondering out loud who the man in the black hood really was. They never come close, because there was never a man, only the same ancient thing that had once walked the fog of Whitechapel with a surgical blade, the same hunger that had learned over centuries how to hide behind whatever mask the era required. Somewhere in another city, under another sky, the same careful hand was already studying new methods. The cipher that feeds never truly stops.